Hello, dear friends. So glad you could join us at Harry's. Today's narrative adventure is titled What If Harry Was Raised by Centaurs Since Age 3 and Could Read Destiny in the Stars. We put our heart into every story we share. If you appreciate our work, showing some love with a like and subscribe would make our day. The story begins now. Chapter 1, Stars over the forest. The small boy ran blindly through the darkness, tears streaming down his face. 3-year-old Harry Potter had no idea where he was going, only that he needed to get away. Uncle Vernon's face had turned that dangerous purple color again, and Aunt Petunia had shrieked when the cookie jar somehow floated down from the high shelf right into Harry's tiny hands. Freak! Uncle Vernon had bellowed, lunging toward him with raised hand. Harry had squeezed his eyes shut, wishing with all his might to be somewhere, anywhere, else. Then came the strange squeezing sensation, like being pulled through a rubber tube, and when he opened his eyes, he found himself in darkness surrounded by towering trees. Now he stumbled through undergrowth that caught at his oversized hand-me-downs, branches scratching his arms. His breath came in panicked gasps. The forest loomed impossibly large around him, night sounds rising from every direction. An owl hooted overhead. Something rustled in the bushes behind him. Harry tripped over a root and fell hard, skinning his knees and palms. The pain broke through his terror, and he curled into a ball at the base of a massive oak, sobbing quietly. "What is this?" came a deep, rumbling voice. Harry's head snapped up. Standing before him was the strangest creature he had ever seen. From the waist up stood a man with long dark hair and a serious face. But where legs should have been was the powerful body of a chestnut horse. The centaur's eyes reflected starlight as he gazed down at the small human child. "A foal," the centaur said, kneeling down on his forelegs to examine Harry more closely. "A human foal, alone in the forest." I'm sorry," Harry hiccuped. "I don't know how I got here." The centaur's expression softened slightly. "I am Firenze." "What do they call you, young one?" "Harry," came the whispered reply. Firenze tilted his head, studying the small boy. His eyes caught on the lightning-shaped scar partially hidden beneath messy black bangs. "Stars above," he murmured. "It cannot be." He reached out slowly and brushed Harry's hair aside. "The marked one." Harry flinched away, but Firenze made no move to harm him. "Come, Harry. The forest is not safe for one so small. We must take you to the herd." Before Harry could respond, Firenze had scooped him up and placed him on his back. Harry instinctively grabbed handfuls of the centaur's dark hair to steady himself. "Hold tight," Firenze instructed, and then they were off, moving swiftly through the trees. Harry had never experienced anything like it. The steady rhythm of hoofbeats beneath him, the wind rushing past his face, the dappled moonlight filtering through the canopy above, it felt like flying. For the first time that night, his fear began to recede. They traveled deeper into the forest until Harry smelled smoke and saw the orange glow of fires ahead. Firenze slowed as they entered a large clearing where more centaurs gathered in small groups. Some stood near fires, others gazed upward at the star-filled sky. All activity ceased as Firenze entered the clearing with Harry on his back. Firenze, called a powerfully built centaur with a black coat and severe expression. "What is the meaning of this?" "Megorian," Firenze acknowledged, lifting Harry carefully from his back and setting him on the ground. "I found this foal alone in the forest." The centaurs drew closer, forming a circle around Harry and Firenze. Harry shrank against Firenze's flank, overwhelmed by the tall creatures surrounding him. "A human child," spat another centaur with a wild black beard. "You should have left it where you found it." "Bane," Firenze said calmly, "look at his forehead." Reluctantly, Bane leaned closer, squinting at Harry's scar. His eyes widened. "The Potter child," he said. "The one the stars have spoken of." Murmurs rippled through the gathered centaurs. Harry didn't understand what was happening, but he felt their eyes on him, judging, evaluating. This cannot be coincidence, said Megorian slowly. Mars shines brightly tonight. The heavens themselves have delivered him to us. The stars may speak, but they do not command, argued Bane. We do not meddle in human affairs. And yet here he stands among us, countered Forenza. I have watched the skies, Bane. For weeks now, unusual patterns have formed. The child's destiny is entangled with forces beyond human understanding. He is still human, Bane insisted. A female centaur with flowing silver hair and pale coat stepped forward. Let us consult the stars together before deciding the foal's fate. Megorian nodded. A wise suggestion, Amalthea. We will read the heavens and seek guidance. Harry watched in bewilderment as the centaurs tilted their heads skyward, their expressions growing distant as if listening to voices he couldn't hear. The clearing fell silent except for the crackling of fires and the night sounds of the forest. After what seemed like hours to Harry's 3-year-old patience, the centaurs lowered their gazes. They exchanged glances heavy with meaning. The pattern is clear, Megorian said finally. Unusual, unprecedented, but clear. It cannot be, Bane protested. Never in our history, the stars do not lie, interrupted Amalthea. The human foal's path is entwined with our own. Great danger approaches, and he has a role to play. Megorian approached Harry and knelt on his forelegs until they were eye to eye. Harry Potter, he said solemnly. The heavens have marked you. Your destiny is written in the stars, though even we cannot fully interpret their meaning. Harry stared back, green eyes wide with confusion. The herd will raise him, Megorian declared, rising to his full height. Protests erupted from several centaurs, Bane loudest among them. This violates our most ancient laws. Bane shouted. A human cannot be part of the herd. The stars themselves have commanded it, Megorian said firmly. Would you defy them, Bane? Bane stomped a hoof in frustration but fell silent. Forenza, Megorian continued, you found the foal. You will be his guardian. Forenza placed a hand on Harry's shoulder. I accept this responsibility. And so began Harry Potter's new life with the centaurs of the Forbidden Forest. The first months were difficult for both Harry and the herd. Harry cried often for his parents, though he had only the vaguest memories of them, a flash of red hair, the sound of a woman's laughter, a sense of safety and love. Sometimes he even cried for Aunt Petunia and Uncle Vernon, simply because they were familiar. Forenza showed remarkable patience, carrying Harry on his back when the small boy grew tired, teaching him which forest plants were safe to eat, and telling him stories of the stars at night. Slowly, Harry's nightmares became less frequent. He stopped flinching when adult centaurs approached him. He began to explore the clearing with curiosity rather than fear. Some centaurs, like Bane, maintained their distance, watching Harry with suspicion. Others gradually warmed to the human foal, charmed despite themselves by his earnest attempts to fit into their world. No, little one, Amalthea laughed one afternoon, watching Harry's clumsy attempts to mimic a centaur's gait by walking on all fours. You are built differently than we are. You must learn to use your own body's strengths. By the time winter came, Harry had claimed a small hollow in the roots of a massive oak tree as his own space. Forenza helped him line it with soft mosses and furs from small game. The centaurs crafted him clothing from leather and plant fibers, better suited to forest life than his tattered hand-me-downs. The human foal adapts well, Megorian noted to Forenza as they watched Harry carefully weaving grasses into a small basket under Amalthea's guidance. He has no choice but to adapt, Forenza replied. But I wonder if we truly understand what the stars intend for him. We never fully understand the stars, Megorian said. We can only interpret their messages and follow where they lead. When the winter snow blanketed the forest, Harry discovered the joy of riding on Forenza's back as the centaur galloped through the drifts, snow spraying around them. His laughter echoed through the trees, the sound of a child who was, against all odds, finding happiness in his strange new home. By his 5th birthday, Harry had become an integral part of the herd. He had developed his own unique place, neither centaur nor typical human child, but something in between. He moved through the forest with confidence, learned to fish in the streams, and could identify dozens of plants and their uses. "Focus, Harry," Forenza instructed, standing beside the boy as he drew back a small bough. "Feel the forest around you. The wind, the distance, the weight of the arrow." Harry squinted at the target, a knot in a distant tree trunk. He took a deep breath, feeling the tension in the bowstring, the slight breeze against his cheek. When he released, the arrow flew straight and true, striking just beside the knot. "Well done," Forenza praised. "Your aim improves daily." Harry beamed with pride. Though he would never have a centaur's strength, he was developing remarkable accuracy with the bow, his small human hands allowing for a precision that even impressed Bane. But archery was only one part of Harry's education. Each night, when the stars emerged, the centaurs gathered to read the heavens. At first, Harry merely watched, fascinated by their intense concentration and the strange language they used to describe celestial movements. "Can I learn?" he asked Forenza one night, his green eyes reflecting the starlight. "The reading of stars is our most sacred practice," Forenza replied. "Few humans have ever shown the patience or capacity to understand." "But I'm not really human anymore," Harry said simply. "I'm part of the herd." Forenza exchanged glances with Megorian, who had overheard the exchange. "Let the foal learn," Megorian decided. "The stars brought him to us. Perhaps they wish him to understand their language." That night marked the beginning of Harry's instruction in the centaur's most guarded knowledge. At first, the concepts seemed impossibly abstract for a 5-year-old. But Harry possessed a unique perspective, young enough that his mind wasn't constrained by human logic, yet human enough to bring a different viewpoint to celestial interpretations. "There," Harry said one night months later, pointing to a particular cluster of stars. "They're moving differently than last week." Forenza followed his gaze with surprise. "Yes, that is correct." "How did you notice?" Harry shrugged. "They just look angrier." The adult centaurs exchanged significant looks. "The foal has the sight," Amalthea whispered. From that night forward, Harry's training intensified. He learned not just to see the stars but to feel their energies, to understand the subtle shifts in their patterns that foretold events yet to come. "The stars do not dictate every moment of our lives," Forenza explained as they gazed upward together. "But they reveal the currents of fate, the great forces that shape our world." "Like a river?" Harry asked. "You can't stop it flowing, but you might be able to swim across it or build a bridge." Forenza smiled. A remarkably apt comparison for one so young. As Harry grew, so did his abilities. Strange things sometimes happened around him, events the centaurs recognized as human magic manifesting itself. A fire lighting without flint when Harry was cold. A tree branch bending down to offer fruit when he was hungry. Rain suddenly stopping directly overhead when he complained of getting wet. "The foal has two magics within him," Megorian observed. "The human magic of his birth and the deeper magic he learns from us." "Is that bad?" Harry asked, overhearing. "Not bad," Megorian answered thoughtfully. "But unusual. Powerful. You must learn to balance these forces." By the time Harry turned 7, he could not only shoot with remarkable accuracy but could imbue his arrows with intent, to fly farther, to strike harder, to return to his hand. He could sit still for hours reading the stars, sometimes seeing patterns even the adult centaurs missed. "Mars grows brighter," he told Forenza one night. "And look, that cluster there is shifting toward it." Forenza studied the configuration. "Yes, I see it now. Conflict approaches, though not immediately." "Will it affect the herd?" Harry asked anxiously. "The stars speak of greater movements than our daily concerns," Forenza reminded him. "But yes, I believe whatever comes will touch us all." When Harry was 8, an unexpected visitor arrived in the forest. The centaurs sensed the half-giant's presence long before he bumbled into view, talking loudly to himself and snapping twigs with every step. Humans approach, Bane warned, and the herd melted into the trees. Harry, practiced in forest stealth, climbed the nearest oak and positioned himself on a branch, watching curiously as an enormous bearded man emerged into a small clearing. "Blimey, this place gets thicker every year," the man muttered, fighting his way through the undergrowth. "Need to find those moonshade mushrooms for Professor Sprout." Firenze materialized at the edge of the clearing. "Hagrid." The big man jumped, then relaxed. "Oh. Firenze, yeah, startled me. Just gatherin' a few plants for the school. The forest provides for those who ask respectfully," Firenze said. "The mushrooms you seek grow beside the western stream." "Thanks." Hagrid beamed. "Haven't seen many of your lot lately. Keepin' to yourselves more than usual?" Firenze merely inclined his head. From his perch, Harry leaned forward, fascinated by this strange human so different from himself. The movement caused a leaf to detach and flutter downward. Hagrid glanced up just as Harry tried to pull back from view. "What the?" Hagrid squinted. "Is that a kid up there?" Harry froze. Firenze's tail swished in agitation. "Come down, Harry," Firenze called after a moment's hesitation. Obediently, Harry scrambled down the trunk with the agility of a child who had spent half his life in trees. He landed lightly beside Firenze, pressing close to the centaur's flank. Hagrid's mouth fell open. He stared at the small boy dressed in forest leathers, wild black hair falling past his shoulders, green eyes watching warily from a sun-browned face. "It can't be," Hagrid whispered. "Harry? Harry Potter?" Harry glanced up at Firenze in confusion. "You know my name," he said to Hagrid, his voice carrying the formal cadence of centaur speech despite his youth. "No, you're..." Hagrid seemed unable to form complete sentences. "Everyone knows, we thought ya were dead. Disappeared from your aunt and uncles 5 years ago." "I found a new family," Harry said simply, placing a hand on Firenze's flank. "The stars brought him to us," Firenze explained. "It was written that he would join our herd." Hagrid shook his shaggy head in disbelief. "Dumbledore's been searchin' everywhere. The whole wizardin' world thinks Yerry gone." "Wizarding world?" Harry repeated, his curiosity piqued. "Blimey, don't ya know? Your parents, your heritage." Hagrid looked from Harry to Firenze with growing understanding. "Ye've been raised by the centaurs all this time." "Harry is one of us now," Firenze said firmly. "But he needs to know who he is." Hagrid protested. "What happened to his parents, why he's famous, about Hogwarts, famous." Harry interrupted. Firenze stamped a hoof. "These matters must be discussed with the herd. Hagrid, you will come with us to speak with Megorian." The meeting that followed changed the course of Harry's life yet again. In the main clearing, surrounded by the entire herd, Hagrid explained Harry's history, his parents' murder by the dark wizard Voldemort, the killing curse that somehow rebounded, the scar that marked him, and his status as a hero in the wizarding world. "And when he turns 11, he'll get his letter to attend Hogwarts," Hagrid concluded. "It's what his parents would have wanted." The centaurs listened in silence, though Harry could sense their unease. "The human speaks of events we have read in the stars," Megorian said finally. "The darkness that fell, the child who survived, the darkness that will return." "Return?" Hagrid repeated nervously. "The stars do not lie," Megorian stated. "Harry Potter's destiny is entwined with this dark force." Harry, processing everything he'd heard, stepped forward. "My parents were wizards. I'm supposed to be a wizard too." "The greatest witch and wizard of their age, they were," Hagrid said proudly. "And you've got their talent, no doubt about it." Harry turned to Firenze, conflict evident on his face. "But I'm part of the herd. I read the stars. I shoot the bow. This is my home. And so it shall remain, Firenze assured him. But perhaps there is wisdom in learning the ways of both your kinds. Bane snorted derisively. Human magic is but a pale imitation of true cosmic forces. Yet it has its own power, Amalthea countered. Power that is Harry's birthright. The debate continued late into the night, long after Hagrid departed with a promise to inform Dumbledore of Harry's survival. Harry sat listening, legs crossed, as the Centaurs argued about his future. Finally, Megorian raised a hand for silence. We will continue Harry's education in our ways. When the time comes for him to receive human training, we will consider it. Harry nodded, relieved that no immediate decision demanded action. But that night, as he gazed at the stars from his oak hollow, new questions filled his mind. Parents he barely remembered. A school of magic. A dark wizard who had tried to kill him. A destiny written in the stars. Following Hagrid's discovery, Harry's education expanded. The gamekeeper visited regularly, bringing books about the wizarding world and tales of Hogwarts. Under the watchful eyes of the Centaurs, Hagrid even demonstrated simple spells with his umbrella, though he became oddly evasive when Harry asked why he used that instead of a proper wand. Your parents were head boy and girl, Hagrid told him during one visit. Brilliant, they were. And kind. Yevi got your mother's eyes, you know. Harry treasured these fragments of information about his birth family. But his true family remained the herd. At 9, he participated in his first great migration, when the Centaurs traveled to the sacred northern clearing to observe the summer solstice. The stars reveal themselves differently from each vantage point, Firenze explained as they journeyed. What appears fixed may simply be a limitation of our perspective. During that solstice gathering, Harry experienced a breakthrough in his star-reading abilities. While the adult Centaurs focused on the traditional constellations, Harry's attention was drawn to a seemingly random collection of stars low on the horizon. There, he said, pointing. They're forming a new pattern. The Centaurs turned to look. I see nothing unusual, Bane said dismissively. Wait, Amalthea murmured. The child is right. Watch. As the night deepened, the stars Harry had indicated seemed to pulse and align. A pattern emerged, subtle at first, then unmistakable to those who could see it. A prophecy star form, Megorian breathed. The first in a century. And the foal saw it first, Amalthea added. Harry stared at the configuration, feeling a strange resonance within himself. It's about me, isn't it? The stars speak of you, Firenze confirmed. But also of others. Of choices yet to be made. Of paths yet to be walked. That night marked Harry's formal acceptance into the Centaur's inner circle of star readers. Despite his human form, he was acknowledged as having true sight. As his 10th year approached, Harry's human magic grew stronger. Hagrid brought him simple magical tools, a small cauldron, basic ingredients, a book of elementary spells. Without a wand, Harry couldn't perform most wizard magic, but he discovered he could channel his power through other means. By focusing his intent through a specially crafted bow, Harry could shoot arrows that split into multiples mid-flight. By whispering to plants while holding his mother's silver pendant, a gift Hagrid had recovered from the Potter Vault, he could accelerate their growth or cause flowers to bloom out of season. Wandless magic. Hagrid exclaimed, watching Harry cause water to spiral upward from a stream. That's really advanced stuff, Harry. But to Harry, it didn't feel advanced, just different. The Centaurs had taught him that magic existed in all things, and his human abilities simply offered another channel to access it. The foe bridges worlds, Megorian observed to the herd council. Neither fully human nor centaur, but connected to the magics of both. Not everyone saw this as positive. Bane and his supporters grew increasingly concerned as Harry's 11th birthday approached. His human magic will dominate, Bane warned. He will abandon our ways when the wizard school claims him. You speak from fear, not wisdom, Firenze countered. Harry's connection to the stars runs deeper than any human training could sever. Harry himself felt torn. The tales of Hogwarts fascinated him, moving staircases, feasts in the Great Hall, flying on broomsticks. Yet the thought of leaving the forest, of sleeping indoors cut off from the stars, made his chest tighten with anxiety. "Must I choose?" he asked Firenze one night as they tracked the movement of Venus across the sky. "The greatest wisdom lies in not choosing," Firenze replied. "But in finding the path that honors both aspects of your nature." Summer arrived, and with it, Harry's 11th birthday approached. The Centaurs grew restless, sensing the impending change. Harry spent more time alone, often climbing to the highest branches of the tallest trees, where he could see beyond the forest to the distant outline of Hogwarts Castle. A week before his birthday, Harry sat in a clearing practicing a particularly difficult form of divination. He had arranged river stones in a complex pattern on the ground, each positioned to correspond with a specific star. By focusing his energy through this terrestrial star map, he could sometimes glimpse fragments of possible futures. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the stones began to glow faintly with an inner light. Harry closed his eyes, reaching out with his senses as Firenze had taught him. Images flickered through his mind, a great hall filled with floating candles, a mirror showing impossible reflections, a three-headed dog, a hooded figure moving through the forest, a red stone glowing with power. The visions came faster, a giant chess set, flames surrounding him, a familiar yet strange face filled with hatred. Harry gasped as pain flared across his scar. The stones lost their glow, and the connection broke. "What did you see?" came Firenze's voice as the centaur stepped into the clearing. Harry described the visions, his voice shaking slightly. "The future is always in motion," Firenze reminded him. "What you saw may come to pass, or may be avoided." "There was darkness," Harry said quietly. "The same darkness that killed my parents. I felt it." Firenze placed a hand on Harry's shoulder. "The stars have long warned of its return. But remember, Harry, darkness cannot exist without light to define it." The conversation was interrupted by the sound of wings. A tawny owl swooped into the clearing, dropping a thick envelope at Harry's feet before circling once and departing. Harry picked up the envelope, running his fingers over the heavy parchment. On the front, written in emerald green ink, were the words, "Mr. H. Potter, the Oak Hollow Centaur Territories Forbidden Forest, it's here," Harry said, looking up at Firenze. "My Hogwarts letter." That night, the entire herd gathered to discuss Harry's future. The letter was passed among the centaurs, examined and debated. Harry sat at Megorian's right, the position of honor, as they considered the path ahead. "The wizard school will teach him their limited magic," Bane argued. "He will forget the deeper wisdom of the stars." "Knowledge is never a weakness," countered Amalthea. "The foal has learned our ways for 8 years. They are part of him now." "I don't want to leave the herd," Harry said when asked for his thoughts. "But..." He hesitated, then continued with the honesty the centaurs had always demanded of him. "I want to know more about my parents, about the magic they used. About why that dark wizard wanted to kill me." Megorian nodded slowly. "The stars have guided your path to this point. What do they tell you now, young one?" Harry closed his eyes, recalling the patterns he had observed over recent weeks. "Mars grows brighter. The shadow constellation strengthens. There is something at Hogwarts, something hidden, something powerful. And your place in this?" Megorian prompted. "I need to be there," Harry said, opening his eyes. "But I don't need to abandon who I am to do it." Firenze smiled with pride. "Wisdom beyond your years." After hours of discussion, the herd reached its decision. Harry would attend Hogwarts, but with conditions. He would return to the forest regularly to continue his centaur training. He would maintain his connection to the herd and to the stars. "You will walk between worlds," Megorian told him solemnly. "Neither fully of the wizards nor fully of the centaurs, but bringing the wisdom of both together. The first of your kind," added Amalthea. "A bridge walker." The day before Harry was to meet Hagrid and journey to Diagon Alley, Firenze took him deep into the forest to a place few even among the Centaurs ever visited. A small circular pool lay nestled among ancient oaks, its surface perfectly still despite the breeze rustling the leaves above. The mirror pool, Firenze explained. It shows not your reflection, but your true nature. Harry approached the edge and looked down. In the water, he saw himself, but changed. His human form remained, but a faint glow surrounded him, reminiscent of the aura Centaurs emanated when reading the stars. At his core, a brilliant light pulsed in time with his heartbeat. What does it mean? Harry asked. That you carry both worlds within you, Firenze said. The form is human, but the essence has been touched by the stars. You are unique, Harry Potter, neither one thing nor the other, but something new. Harry stayed by the pool until sunset, contemplating what lay ahead. When darkness fell, he and Firenze made their way back to the main clearing where the herd waited. That night, in a ceremony as old as the Centaur race, Harry was formally acknowledged as a bridgewalker. Megorian painted star symbols on his forehead and hands with luminescent forest pigments. Amalthea wove protective charms into a leather band that Harry tied around his wrist. Even Bane participated, presenting Harry with a bow of extraordinary craftsmanship. May it remind you of who you truly are, the stern Centaur said, when the humans try to remake you in their image. As dawn approached, Harry climbed into his oak hollow for the last night before his journey to Hogwarts would begin. Above him, the stars wheeled in their eternal dance, patterns shifting, stories unfolding. I won't forget, he whispered to them. I promise. In the morning, he would step into a new world, carrying the old one with him. Harry Potter, the boy who lived. Harry Potter, child of the Centaur herd. Harry Potter, reader of stars and bridgewalker. The stars twinkled in response, their light reaching across vast distances to touch the face of the boy who could read their messages. Chapter 2, Between Two Worlds. The morning sun filtered through the ancient trees as Harry walked alongside Firenze toward the edge of the forbidden forest. He carried nothing but his new wand tucked into a leather sheath at his hip, his centaur-crafted bow slung across his back, and a small pouch of personal treasures. Hagrid had taken care of purchasing his school supplies, which waited for him at Hogwarts. You're quiet today, Firenze observed, his hooves making barely a sound on the forest floor. Harry shrugged. Just thinking about everything. It's weird to be going to a castle full of humans after all this time. Remember what Megorian told you? I know, Harry interrupted with a grin. I'm a bridgewalker. I don't have to choose one world over the other. Firenze smiled down at him. You've always been a quick learner. They reached the forest's edge where the trees thinned out, revealing the vast expanse of Hogwarts grounds. In the distance, the castle stood majestic against the morning sky, towers reaching toward the clouds. Harry had seen it before from treetops, but never this close. His stomach fluttered with equal parts excitement and anxiety. Hagrid said to meet him at his hut, Harry said, pointing to the small cottage near the forest edge. As they approached, the door burst open and Hagrid emerged, beaming. Harry! Right on time. His smile faltered slightly as he noticed Firenze. Oh, didn't expect company. Firenze is seeing me off, Harry explained. The centaur inclined his head. I wish to speak with Albus Dumbledore about Harry's unique situation. Hagrid's eyebrows shot up. A centaur? At Hogwarts? That's never, there are many unprecedented things about young Harry, Firenze replied calmly. Before Hagrid could respond, the sound of footsteps drew their attention. Walking briskly across the grounds was an elderly wizard with flowing silver hair and beard, wearing magnificent purple robes that billowed around him. Even at a distance, Harry could sense the power emanating from him. Ah, Hagrid, right on schedule, the wizard called as he approached. His eyes twinkled behind half-moon spectacles as they fell on Harry, then widened slightly at the sight of Firenze. And with unexpected guests. Professor Dumbledore, Hagrid said, this is Harry Potter and Firenze of the Centaur herd. Dumbledore studied Harry with open curiosity. Harry Potter. After 8 years, we meet at last. Harry straightened his posture the way Megorian had taught him when addressing herd leaders. Headmaster. The stars have guided our paths to cross. A flicker of surprise crossed Dumbledore's face at Harry's formal manner. Indeed they have. And I must say, this is an unprecedented honor. He turned to Firenze with a respectful nod. The Centaurs have never before accompanied one of our students to Hogwarts. Harry is not just your student, Firenze stated. He remains a member of our herd. A bridge walker between our worlds. A bridge walker, Dumbledore repeated thoughtfully. Fascinating. Perhaps we might discuss what this means for Harry's education. That is why I have come, Firenze agreed. Harry shifted uncomfortably as the adults discussed him. He turned his attention to the castle, extending his senses as he'd been taught. Hogwarts hummed with magic, different from the forest's power but just as vibrant. Harry, Dumbledore's voice pulled him back. Firenze has explained some unique aspects of your upbringing and training. I believe we can accommodate your continued connection to the forest. I need to see the stars, Harry said firmly. Every night, if possible. Dumbledore nodded. The astronomy tower offers an excellent view. And of course, you'll have regular astronomy classes. Harry shook his head. Not just looking at them. Reading them. And I need to return to the herd regularly for training. Weekend visits to the forest, Firenze suggested. And permission to practice centaur divination. Dumbledore stroked his beard. Unusual, but manageable. Professor Trelawney, our divination teacher, would likely be fascinated. One more thing, Firenze added. Harry carries a bow. It is part of his identity. Weapons are not typically allowed, Dumbledore began. It's not just a weapon, Harry interrupted, touching the bow on his back. It's how I channel some of my magic. Dumbledore's eyebrows rose. Indeed. Most fascinating. Perhaps a compromise, the bow may be kept in your dormitory and used under supervision for practice. Harry glanced at Firenze, who gave a slight nod. Acceptable, Harry agreed. The details settled, the time for goodbyes arrived. Hagrid discreetly moved away, giving them privacy. Remember who you are, Harry Potter, Firenze said, kneeling to meet Harry's eyes. The humans will try to shape you into what they expect, their hero, their savior. But you are more than their stories. I'll remember, Harry promised. Firenze touched his forehead to Harry's in the centaur gesture of kinship. Read the stars. They will guide you even here. Mars is unusually bright, Harry murmured. Yes, Firenze agreed grimly. Conflict approaches. Be vigilant. With a final nod to Dumbledore, Firenze turned and galloped back into the forest. Harry watched until he disappeared among the trees, feeling suddenly very small and alone. Well then, Dumbledore said gently. Shall we introduce you to your new home? Harry's entrance into the great hall that evening caused a sensation. The other first years had arrived by train and boat, but Harry walked in alongside Professor McGonagall, his appearance immediately setting him apart. His hair hung past his shoulders in the centaur fashion, adorned with small wooden beads. He wore the required Hogwarts robes, but underneath were his forest leathers rather than the standard uniform. Most striking was his confident, almost predatory grace. He moved like someone accustomed to stalking through underbrush, alert to every sound and movement. The hall fell silent as students craned their necks for a glimpse of him. Whispers erupted in his wake. Is that really Harry Potter? Where's he been all this time? Why does he look like that? Did you see the scar? Harry ignored the stares, focusing instead on the enchanted ceiling. Stars glimmered above, mirroring the night sky outside. He immediately began reading their patterns, finding comfort in the familiar practice. Potter, Harry. McGonagall called, though it was unnecessary since he already stood beside her. Harry approached the stool and the ancient hat. He'd been briefed about the sorting ceremony but still felt wary as the hat dropped over his eyes. "Well, well, well," a small voice said in his ear. "What have we here?" "Harry Potter at last, but not at all what I expected." "I'm a bridge walker," Harry thought back. "Indeed you are. How fascinating. Your mind is unlike any I've sorted before. The structure of your thoughts, influenced by the Centaurs, I see. Their cosmic perspective, their connection to natural magic. Yet underneath, there's still the wizard born to James and Lily Potter." The hat fell silent for a moment, seemingly contemplating. "Difficult, very difficult. You have courage, certainly. And intelligence, though focused differently than most wizards. Loyalty to your herd, but also ambition to prove yourself in this new world. I just want to fulfill my destiny," Harry thought. "The stars have shown me fragments, but not the full path." "Destiny, is it?" The hat seemed amused. "Well, for that you'll need bravery above all else. Better be Gryffindor." The last word echoed through the hall. The Gryffindor table erupted in cheers as Harry removed the hat and walked toward them, his movements fluid and deliberate. He chose an empty space at the end of the table, preferring some distance from the excited students. A tall, red-headed boy immediately slid down the bench toward him. "Blimey, it's really you." "I'm Ron Weasley," he said, sticking out his hand. Harry clasped the offered forearm in Centaur fashion rather than shaking hands. "Harry Potter." Ron looked startled but quickly recovered. "Everyone's been talking about you. Is it true you were raised by centaurs in the Forbidden Forest?" "Yes," Harry replied simply. "Wicked." Ron grinned. "What was that like?" Before Harry could answer, a bushy-haired girl leaned across the table. "I've read about centaurs in Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. They're classified as beings of near-human intelligence. Did they really teach you astronomy?" "I'm Hermione Granger, by the way." Harry frowned. "Near-human? The centaurs are wiser than any human I've met. They don't teach astronomy, they read the cosmic forces that shape destiny." Hermione looked taken aback. "Oh. I didn't mean to offend. It's just what the book said." "Your books are written by humans who've never truly understood centaurs," Harry said, then softened his tone. "But yes, they taught me to read the stars, among other things." "Can you show us?" Ron asked eagerly. Harry pointed upward at the enchanted ceiling. "See that configuration there? It signals change and challenge. And Mars," he traced the pattern, "unusually bright. Conflict approaches." Several students were now listening intently. Harry felt uncomfortable with the attention but reminded himself that sharing knowledge was valued by the centaurs. The feast appeared, momentarily distracting everyone. Harry stared at the abundance of food with mild shock. In the forest, meals were simple affairs, forest fruits, nuts, occasionally fish or game. The heavy, processed foods before him seemed overwhelming. "Aren't you hungry?" Ron asked through a mouthful of roast chicken. Harry selected some simple vegetables and bread. "We eat differently in the forest." "But you need to try the treacle tart," Ron insisted. "It's brilliant." Despite his reservations, Harry eventually sampled the sweet dessert, and had to admit it was delicious. Perhaps not all human customs would be difficult to adapt to. As the feast concluded, Dumbledore rose to give announcements. Harry listened with half an ear, still observing his fellow students. The other first years seemed so young to him, so innocent. Though the same age, his forest upbringing had given him a maturity they lacked. "Third floor corridor on the right-hand side is out of bounds to everyone who does not wish to die a very painful death," Dumbledore was saying. Harry's attention snapped back fully. He extended his senses, probing toward the mentioned corridor. Even at this distance, he detected something off. A disturbance in the natural energies. Interesting. The Gryffindor dormitory presented Harry with his first major challenge. The enclosed space, the canopied bed, the lack of fresh air and stars, it felt suffocating after a lifetime sleeping beneath the open sky. "This is your bed, Harry," Percy Weasley, the prefect, explained. Harry examined the four-poster with suspicion. "I prefer to sleep under the stars." "Well, that's not really possible," Percy said with a frown. "Students must sleep in their dormitories." The other first-year boys, Ron, Dean, Seamus, and Neville, watched with curiosity as Harry opened the window wide, then dragged his blankets onto the floor beneath it. "What are you doing?" Seamus asked. "Compromising," Harry replied, arranging his makeshift bed where he could see a patch of night sky. Percy looked ready to object, but something in Harry's determined expression made him reconsider. "I suppose that's acceptable. For now. But we should discuss more permanent arrangements." That night, Harry struggled to sleep despite his exhaustion. The stone walls felt like a prison compared to his oak hollow. The sounds were all wrong: no rustling leaves, no night birds, no distant hoof beats of centaurs on patrol. Instead, he heard snoring, the creaking of ancient timbers, the whisper of drafts through corridors. He slipped into an uneasy slumber just before dawn, his dreams filled with stars falling from the sky, replaced by cold, artificial lights. Harry's first week at Hogwarts was a whirlwind of adjustment. Classes introduced him to formalized magic so different from what he'd learned with the Centaurs. Some subjects came naturally. He excelled immediately in herbology, his connection to plants obvious to Professor Sprout. "Remarkable affinity," she commented, watching Harry coax a reluctant seedling into growth with just a gentle touch and whispered words. Potions proved more challenging, not because Harry lacked understanding of ingredients, many of which he recognized from forest remedies, but because of Professor Snape's immediate animosity. "Potter," Snape sneered during their first lesson. "Our new celebrity. Tell me, what would I get if I added powdered root of asphodel to an infusion of wormwood?" "A sleeping potion so powerful it's called the draught of living death," Harry answered calmly. The Centaurs use a similar preparation to induce prophetic trances during the winter solstice, though they add moonflower to protect the dreamer's mind. Snape's eyes narrowed. "And where would you look if I told you to find me a bezoar?" "A goat's stomach traditionally, though any ruminant can produce them. They counteract most poisons. In the forest, we keep them for treating snake bites." Each correct answer seemed to irritate Snape further. By the end of class, he had deducted points from Gryffindor for what he called Harry's insufferable wilderness knowledge. "What's his problem?" Ron complained as they left the dungeon. "He doesn't like being surprised," Hermione suggested. "Most first-years wouldn't know those answers." Harry shrugged. The stars around him are turbulent. Inner conflict. Ron and Hermione exchanged glances, still not entirely comfortable with Harry's occasional cryptic observations. Charms and Transfiguration revealed Harry's greatest challenge: wand work. While he could perform impressive feats of wandless magic connected to nature, the precise wand movements and incantations felt awkward and constraining. "No, no, Mr. Potter," Professor McGonagall sighed after his fifth failed attempt to transfigure a match into a needle. "It's a sharp flick, not a flowing sweep." "Why does it matter?" Harry asked, genuinely curious. "The intent is the same. Because structured spellwork requires precision," she explained. "Your alternative magical education has given you impressive raw ability, but little discipline." Harry frowned, then tried again, forcing his hand into the rigid movement she demonstrated. The match quivered and turned silver but remained match-shaped. "Better," McGonagall said encouragingly. "You have the power, Mr. Potter. Now you need the control." Later that evening, frustrated with his struggles, Harry retreated to the astronomy tower. Though it wasn't yet time for their class, he needed the comfort of open sky and stars. He sat cross-legged on the cold stone, breathing deeply, finding his center as Firenze had taught him. You're not supposed to be up here outside of class hours. Harry opened his eyes to find Hermione standing in the doorway, arms crossed. I need to see the stars, he said simply. She hesitated, then joined him. You really miss it, don't you? The forest. It's my home. Harry tilted his head back, locating familiar constellations. The Centaurs taught me that understanding comes from observation, watching patterns unfold over time. Here, everyone wants immediate results, exact movements, precise words. That's because magic can be dangerous if not properly controlled, Hermione said. Imagine if everyone just did whatever magic they felt like. The Centaurs control their magic through understanding, not rules, Harry replied. They know the consequences of their actions because they've studied the cosmic patterns for centuries. Hermione looked thoughtful. I never considered that approach. But you have to admit, learning specific spells does give immediate, reliable results. Harry nodded reluctantly. True. I just wish. He trailed off, unsure how to explain. You wish you didn't have to choose between two ways of doing things, Hermione finished for him. Exactly. Harry gave her a grateful smile. I'm a bridge walker. I need to find a way to connect both worlds, not abandon one for the other. Hermione's eyes lit up. Maybe I can help. I could study centaur magic, for academic purposes, of course, and you could practice more traditional spellwork. We could compare approaches. Her enthusiasm was infectious. Harry felt his spirits lift for the first time in days. I'd like that, he said. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Professor Sinistra, who seemed surprised to find students in the tower. Mr. Potter, Miss Granger. Astronomy class isn't until midnight. Sorry, Professor, Hermione began, but Harry interrupted. I needed to consult the stars, he said honestly. Professor Dumbledore said I could continue my centaur training. Sinistra's expression shifted from suspicion to interest. Centaur astronomy? I've always been fascinated by their methods, though few wizards have ever been permitted to learn them. I could show you, Harry offered. The basic patterns, at least. That night, after the regular astronomy lesson ended, Professor Sinistra invited Harry to stay and demonstrate centaur star reading. It became the first of many such sessions, establishing a pattern that would help Harry maintain his connection to his centaur training while at Hogwarts. By his third week at school, Harry had developed a reputation as both a curiosity and a prodigy, though in unexpected ways. While he struggled with conventional spellwork, his abilities with wandless nature magic and divination drew amazement from students and faculty alike. Mr. Potter can sense the future needs of these plants before even I notice them wilting, Professor Sprout told a visitor one day in the greenhouse. It's as if they speak to him. Similarly, Professor Trelawney, initially skeptical of a first-year claiming divination skills, became an enthusiastic supporter after Harry accurately predicted a surprise inspection from the Board of Governors by reading tea leaves using centaur interpretive methods. The cosmic influences have blessed this child, she declared dramatically. Not everyone appreciated Harry's unusual talents, however. His forest-trained reflexes and physical prowess caused problems in flying lessons when he abandoned his broomstick mid-exercise to pursue a falling Remembrall on foot, scaling the castle wall like a squirrel to retrieve it before it shattered. Completely reckless behavior. Madame Hooch scolded, even as the other students gaped in awe. Sorry, Harry said, not looking sorry at all as he returned the Remembrall to a grateful Neville. In the forest, we don't use tools when our bodies can do the job. His different approach extended to his appearance and habits. Despite pressure to conform, Harry maintained elements of his centaur upbringing, keeping his hair long with ceremonial beads, preferring light forest garments under his robes, eating primarily plant foods, and continuing to sleep on the floor beneath the open window rather than in his bed. Some students found these eccentricities fascinating, others mocked them relentlessly. Draco Malfoy emerged as his most vocal critic. Here comes Potter the wild child, Malfoy sneered one afternoon as Harry entered the courtyard. Raised by beasts and proud of it. Harry assessed Malfoy calmly, reading his posture and energy as he would an agitated forest creature. The Centaurs taught me that those who demean others reveal only their own insecurities. Malfoy's face flushed. Spouting horseman philosophy now. My father says it's a disgrace, the famous Harry Potter, running around like a savage, barely able to perform proper magic. Your father? Harry tilted his head curiously. You reference him often. Among the Centaurs, young foals learn to speak with their own voice, not their sires. Laughter erupted from watching students. Malfoy's flush deepened to crimson. At least I have a father, he spat. Not just some four-legged beast playing nursemaid. The courtyard went silent. Harry felt a surge of anger, not at the insult to himself, but at the disrespect to Firenze and the herd. His hand moved instinctively to the bough he wasn't carrying. Ron stepped forward, fists clenched. Shut your mouth, Malfoy. But Harry placed a restraining hand on Ron's arm. The Centaurs taught me another lesson, to recognize when someone is trying to provoke me into losing control. I won't give you that satisfaction. He turned and walked away, leaving Malfoy fuming behind him. That was brilliant. Ron said, hurrying to catch up. Though I wouldn't have minded seeing you punch him. Violence against those weaker than yourself brings no honor, Harry replied seriously. Ron blinked. Weaker? Malfoy? His spirit is weak, Harry explained. He hides behind his father's name because he lacks confidence in his own worth. Ron looked impressed. Blimey, Harry. You really do see things differently. News of Harry's unusual upbringing and abilities spread beyond Hogwarts. By mid-October, the first official response arrived in the form of a ministry inspection. Harry was summoned to Dumbledore's office to meet with Dolores Umbridge, Undersecretary to the Minister of Magic. Mr. Potter, she greeted him with a wide, insincere smile. So pleased to finally meet you. We've all been so concerned. Harry remained standing rather than taking the offered seat, observing her with the careful neutrality he'd use when encountering an unknown creature in the forest. The ministry is quite interested in your unusual situation, Umbridge continued, her girlish voice at odds with the sharpness in her eyes. Being raised by centaurs, quite unprecedented, and frankly, potentially harmful to a developing wizard. The centaurs saved my life and taught me wisdom beyond what most wizards ever learn, Harry responded evenly. Yes, well, Umbridge tittered, that's a matter of opinion, dear. The fact remains that centaurs are classified as part-human magical creatures for good reason. Their customs are primitive, their magic unrefined. Harry felt his temper rising but controlled it as Megorian had taught him. Have you ever spoken with a centaur, Madam Umbridge? She blinked at the direct question. That's hardly relevant. It is entirely relevant, Harry interrupted. You judge what you don't understand. Dumbledore, who had been silently observing, cleared his throat. Perhaps, Dolores, you might share the ministry's specific concerns rather than general prejudices. Umbridge straightened, pulling out an official-looking scroll. The ministry questions whether Mr. Potter has received proper magical education, whether his social development has been stunted by isolation from human society, and whether his continued association with the centaur herd poses risks to the statute of secrecy. I can address those concerns, Harry said before Dumbledore could speak. I received different magical education, not inferior. I learned to read cosmic forces, channel natural energies, and commune with forest life. Now I'm learning human magic to complement those skills. He stepped closer to Umbridge, who instinctively leaned back. As for social development, the centaur herd functions as a complex society with rules, traditions, and values, many of which emphasize wisdom, restraint, and respect far more than what I've observed in wizard society thus far. Umbridge's face had turned an interesting shade of pink. Dumbledore's eyes twinkled with barely suppressed amusement. And regarding secrecy, Harry concluded, the centaurs have maintained their own privacy and autonomy for centuries despite living alongside humans. They understand discretion better than most. A tense silence followed. Finally, Umbridge stuffed her scroll back into her bag. "The Ministry will be watching your progress closely, Mr. Potter," she said tightly. "If your unconventional upbringing proves detrimental to your development as a proper wizard, intervention may be necessary." "I am both Centaur-trained and wizard-born," Harry replied. "I walk between worlds by choice, not by accident." After Umbridge departed, Dumbledore regarded Harry thoughtfully. "You handled that remarkably well for someone your age," he observed. Harry shrugged. "Bane is far more intimidating when angry." Dumbledore chuckled. "I don't doubt it. Still, you should be aware that the Ministry's interest won't end with one visit. Your situation challenges their neat categories." "The stars warned of opposition," Harry said. "But also of allies in unexpected places." "Indeed?" Dumbledore raised an eyebrow. "And what else have the stars told you about your time at Hogwarts?" Harry hesitated, unsure how much to share. Finally, he decided on honesty. "Something dangerous hides within these walls. Something connected to my past and future." Dumbledore's expression grew serious. "The Centaurs taught you well, Harry. Stay vigilant, but also remember you're not alone in facing whatever comes." Halloween arrived with a swirl of excitement among the students. Harry, however, felt increasingly uneasy as the date approached. The stars had shown disturbing patterns, and his dreams were filled with shadows and whispered warnings. "You've been quiet all day," Hermione observed as they walked to the Halloween feast. In the week since their conversation in the astronomy tower, she had become one of Harry's closest friends, along with Ron. "It's the anniversary of my parents' deaths," Harry said simply. Ron winced. "Blimey, I didn't think about that." "Sorry, mate. The Centaurs mark the passing of herd members with reflection, not celebration," Harry explained. "This feast feels wrong. We could skip it," Hermione suggested. "Find somewhere quiet instead." Harry shook his head. "No. The stars have been warning of something tonight. I need to be alert." The great hall was decorated with floating pumpkins and live bats. Harry picked at his food, his senses extended, searching for the source of his unease. The feast was nearly over when Professor Quirrell burst through the doors, terror on his face. "Troll, in the dungeons, thought you ought to know." He collapsed in a dead faint. Chaos erupted as students panicked. Harry remained calm, evaluating the threat as he'd been taught. "Prefects, lead your houses back to the dormitories immediately," Dumbledore ordered. As they filed out, Harry grabbed Ron and Hermione's arms. "Wait. Trolls have a distinct magical signature, earthy, dull. I sensed nothing like that earlier." "What are you saying?" Hermione asked. "This could be a diversion," Harry said grimly. "The stars warned of deception today. So what do we do?" Ron looked nervous but determined. Harry closed his eyes briefly, extending his awareness through the castle. There. His eyes snapped open. Third floor corridor, the forbidden one. Something's disturbing the energies there. "We should tell a teacher," Hermione insisted. "They're all heading to the dungeons," Harry pointed out. "By the time we find one, it could be too late." With a decisiveness born from years of forest survival, Harry slipped away from the Gryffindor line, Ron and Hermione reluctantly following. They made their way toward the third-floor corridor, Harry moving with predatory stealth, the others trying to keep up without making noise. Reaching the forbidden corridor, Harry pressed a finger to his lips, then pointed ahead where a door stood ajar. Soft footsteps retreated beyond it. Harry crept forward, peering through the gap. His eyes widened. Inside lay a massive three-headed dog, seemingly asleep, a small harp playing beside it. A trapdoor visible beneath one giant paw stood open. "Someone's already been here," he whispered. "Recently." "That's a Cerberus." Hermione gasped. What's it guarding? Harry focused, sensing the magical currents. Something powerful. Ancient. But there's another signature too, darker, hungrier. A low growl interrupted them. The harp had stopped playing, and 3 massive heads were now awake, 6 eyes fixed on the partially open door. Back up slowly, Harry instructed, pushing his friends behind him. No sudden movements. The dog lunged forward just as they retreated, massive jaws snapping at the closing door. Harry slammed it shut, bracing against the wood as the creature bashed against it. "We need to tell Dumbledore," Hermione insisted, face pale. "Agreed," Harry said. "But first, we need to know what's happening." They made their way toward the staff room, hoping to find a teacher, when Professor Snape appeared around a corner, limping heavily. "Potter," he snarled. "What are you doing away from your dormitory?" Harry noticed the fresh blood staining Snape's robes near the leg. His eyes narrowed. The troll was a diversion. Someone tried to get past the 3-headed dog. Snape's face drained of color. "How do you? I sense the disturbance," Harry said. "The stars warned of deception tonight." "Centaur superstition," Snape sneered, but his eyes betrayed concern. "Return to your dormitory immediately. This is not a matter for students." Harry stood his ground. "What's being guarded, Professor? Something connected to Voldemort?" Snape flinched at the name, his expression turning thunderous. 10 points from Gryffindor for your impertinence, Potter. Now go, before I make it 50. As they hurried away, Ron whistled low. "You reckon Snape was trying to get past that dog?" "His leg was injured," Hermione pointed out. "But why would a teacher? It's not that simple," Harry interrupted, his expression troubled. "There are multiple forces at work here. The energy signatures are complex." Back in the common room, they huddled in a corner away from celebrating Gryffindors who had just learned the troll had been subdued in the girls' bathroom. "Okay," Ron said, "let's figure this out. There's a giant 3-headed dog guarding a trapdoor on the 3rd floor. Guarding something valuable or dangerous," Hermione added. "Connected somehow to Voldemort," Harry finished. "The darkness I sensed matches what the stars have shown me about that night, when he killed my parents." Hermione gasped. "You think you know who is trying to steal whatever's hidden?" "He's supposed to be dead," Ron protested. Harry shook his head. "The Centaurs never believed that. They've seen patterns in the stars for years indicating his essence remained, weakened but not destroyed." "This is serious," Hermione said, looking frightened. "If you know who is involved somehow, then we need more information," Harry concluded. "About what's being hidden and who might be helping him." The following weeks took on a new urgency. Between classes, Harry, Ron, and Hermione researched possible objects valuable enough to warrant such protection. Harry continued his regular star reading sessions, seeking cosmic guidance. And they all watched the teachers carefully for suspicious behavior. "Snape's definitely involved somehow," Ron insisted after noticing the potions master in hushed conversation with Filch near the 3rd-floor corridor. "But Quirrell was acting oddly too," Hermione pointed out. "Ever notice how his stutter gets worse around Snape?" Harry had his own suspicions but kept them private until he had more evidence. The Centaurs had taught him that observations must accumulate before conclusions are drawn. Meanwhile, he maintained his connection to the forest. Every weekend, he returned to the Centaur herd, practicing their arts and sharing what he'd learned at Hogwarts. "The patterns grow clearer," Megorian told him during one visit in late November. "The darkness gathers strength." "I've sensed it," Harry agreed. "Especially around Professor Quirrell." Firenze nodded gravely. "Trust your instincts, young one. Your bridge walking gives you perspective others lack." These visits renewed Harry's spirits and helped him navigate the increasingly complex politics of Hogwarts. His unique status continued to attract attention, some welcome, some not. Professor McGonagall had begun private tutoring sessions, helping Harry develop a hybrid magical style that incorporated centaur techniques with traditional wandwork. To her surprise, Harry excelled once allowed to adapt the rigid movements into flowing forms that felt natural to him. "It's rather like teaching a foreign language," she confided to Dumbledore. "Potter thinks in centaur, so to speak. We need to translate wizard magic into terms he understands." The approach worked. By December, Harry had caught up to his classmates in most practical magic, though his methods remained distinctly his own. Outside class, his friendship with Ron and Hermione deepened. They accepted his differences and even began adopting some of his habits, joining him for dawn meditation, listening to his interpretations of dreams, accompanying him on supervised visits to the forest edge. "The Centaurs really know their stuff about plants," Ron admitted after Harry showed him how to find winter mushrooms that made excellent additions to stews. "My mum would love these. And their mathematical approach to astronomy is fascinating," Hermione added, poring over star charts Harry had drawn. "It's more complex than what we're learning in class." Not everyone was so appreciative. Draco Malfoy's antagonism increased, especially after Harry's unconventional flying style earned him a special exemption to join the Quidditch team, not as a traditional player but as a recovery specialist, who could retrieve fallen players or rogue bludgers using his remarkable climbing and jumping abilities. "Potter the monkey boy," Malfoy taunted. "Swinging from the goal posts because he can't manage a proper broom." Harry largely ignored such provocations, but the constant tension wore on him. By the Christmas holiday, he was eager for a break from castle life. "You'll come to the Burrow for Christmas, right?" Ron asked as they prepared for the end of term. "My parents invited you in their last letter." Harry hesitated. "I've already promised the herd I'd join them for the winter solstice. It's an important ceremony." Ron looked disappointed but nodded. "Yeah, I get it. Family comes first." "You are also my family," Harry said seriously. "I've never had human friends before. It's new territory." Ron grinned. "Well, maybe you can come for New Year's instead." "I'd like that," Harry agreed. As students departed for the holidays, Hogwarts grew quieter. Harry divided his time between the castle and forest, continuing his research into the mysterious object hidden on the third floor. A breakthrough came just before Christmas when Hagrid inadvertently let slip the name Nicholas Flamel during a conversation about the three-headed dog, which Harry discovered was named Fluffy and belonged to Hagrid himself. "Flamel," Hermione mused before leaving for the holidays. "Why does that name sound familiar?" With most students gone, Harry had greater freedom to explore the castle. One snowy evening, wandering the empty corridors, he discovered an unused classroom containing a magnificent mirror. Curious, he approached it, and froze at what he saw. Reflected beside him stood not just Firenze and the centaur herd, but also a man and woman he somehow knew were his parents. James and Lily Potter smiled at him, their hands on his shoulders. Behind them gathered an array of figures, some clearly wizards, others magical beings of various types, all standing together in harmony. "A bridge between worlds," Harry whispered, understanding what the mirror showed him. "The mirror of Eriste," came Dumbledore's voice as the headmaster stepped from the shadows. "It shows us nothing more or less than the deepest desire of our hearts." Harry nodded. "Unity. Understanding between different magical peoples. My parents proud of the path I've chosen." Dumbledore studied him with interest. "Most 11-year-olds see themselves achieving glory or surrounded by material wealth. Your vision is remarkably mature. The Centaurs teach that personal desires matter less than one's place in the cosmic pattern," Harry explained. "Though I admit, seeing my parents is perfectly natural," Dumbledore completed gently. "The mirror will be moved tomorrow, Harry. I suggest you not go looking for it again. It gives neither knowledge nor truth, and many have wasted away before it." Harry recognized wisdom when he heard it. "Yes, sir." As he turned to leave, Harry decided to take a risk. "Headmaster, what do you know about Nicholas Flamel?" Dumbledore's eyebrows rose. An interesting question. Nicholas is a dear friend, and the only known maker of the Philosopher's Stone. The stone, Harry breathed, pieces clicking into place. That's what's hidden here, isn't it? Something that could restore Voldemort to power. You continue to surprise me, Harry, Dumbledore said. Most first years wouldn't make that connection. The stars have shown fragments of this pattern for months, Harry explained. I just needed this piece to understand the larger design. Dumbledore sighed. The stone is well protected, I assure you. By more than just Fluffy. But someone's trying to steal it, Harry pressed. Someone in the castle, working for Voldemort. A serious accusation, Dumbledore replied carefully. Do you have evidence? Harry hesitated. His cosmic readings and energy sensings wouldn't qualify as evidence to most wizards. I'm still gathering it, he admitted. But the pattern is becoming clearer. Then I suggest caution and vigilance, Dumbledore advised. And perhaps focusing on being 11 years old for a while. The burdens of destiny can wait until after the holidays, at least. The winter solstice celebration with the Centaur herd renewed Harry's spirits. Under the clearest night sky of the year, the Centaurs performed their most sacred rituals, reading the cosmic forces at their most potent. Harry participated fully, his status as Bridgewalker earning him a place in the inner circle despite his youth. As the constellation of Sagittarius reached its zenith, Harry experienced a moment of profound clarity, a vision of the challenges that lay ahead. He saw the stone, glowing red with power. He saw shadowy figures converging on it, one housing a parasite within, another moving in opposition. He saw himself standing between them, drawing on both Centaur wisdom and wizard heritage. You have seen, Megorian said when Harry described the vision afterward. Not everything, Harry admitted. Fragments, possibilities. The future is always in motion, Firenze reminded him. What matters is your preparation to meet it. Harry returned to Hogwarts with new purpose, splitting his time between classes, Quidditch practices, and discreet investigation. Ron rejoined him after the holidays, bringing Hermione back into their research once she returned. The Philosopher's Stone, Hermione whispered excitedly when Harry shared Dumbledore's confirmation. It transforms metal to gold and produces the elixir of life. No wonder someone wants to steal it. But who? Ron asked. Snape's been acting suspicious, but could he really be working for you-know-who? Harry shook his head. The energy doesn't feel right. Snape's magic is complex, dark-tinged but not corrupted. There's someone else. Their speculation was interrupted by the approach of the first Quidditch match since the holiday break, Gryffindor vs Hufflepuff. Though Harry's role was primarily as emergency support, Wood had developed special plays incorporating his unusual abilities. Remember, Potter, Wood instructed during their final practice, you stay clear of normal play unless someone falls or a bludger goes into the stands. Then you do your Monkey Man routine and sort it out. The match began under perfect conditions, clear skies, light breeze. Harry positioned himself on a special platform near the bottom of the Gryffindor goal posts, bow in hand. He'd been granted special permission to carry it during matches for retrieval purposes. 20 minutes into the game, Harry noticed something odd. Professor Quirrell, seated in the teacher's stands, appeared to be muttering continuously while staring at the Gryffindor Seeker. At the same moment, Harry felt a disturbance in the magical energy surrounding the pitch. Looking up, he saw the Gryffindor Seeker's broom jerking violently, nearly unseating him. Without hesitation, Harry knocked an arrow to his bow, not to shoot at anyone, but to channel his magic. Focusing his intent as Firenze had taught him, Harry shot the arrow high above the struggling Seeker. It burst mid-air into a shower of golden sparks that momentarily disrupted all magic in its vicinity. The broom immediately stopped bucking, giving the Seeker control again. In the teacher's stand, Quirrell toppled backward in surprise, breaking his concentration. Snape, seated nearby, gave Harry a calculating look. The match continued without further incident, ending in a narrow Gryffindor victory. Afterward, McGonagall pulled Harry aside. That was quick thinking with the disruption arrow, Potter. Though I'd like to know where you learned such magic. Centaur defensive technique, Harry explained. For breaking harmful spells without hurting the caster. Remarkable, she said. Though perhaps next time, alert a teacher first. There wasn't time, Harry said honestly. And I couldn't be certain who was causing it. McGonagall's eyes sharpened. You suspect someone was deliberately jinxing the broom? Who? Harry hesitated. I'm still gathering evidence, Professor. She studied him for a moment. Very well, Potter. But be careful with accusations. And, good work today. That evening, Harry, Ron, and Hermione analyzed what had happened. It had to be Quirrell, Harry insisted. The magical signature matched what I've sensed around him before, that strange duality, like two magical cores in one body. But why would Professor Quirrell want to hurt a student? Hermione asked, troubled. What if he's after the stone? Ron suggested. Maybe he was trying to create a distraction. Or testing his powers, Harry mused. The attempt felt experimental. Their investigation gained new urgency. Harry began tracking Quirrell's movements through the castle, noting his frequent visits to the third-floor corridor and strange midnight wanderings. One evening in late February, Harry returned from a weekend with the herd to find Ron and Hermione waiting with news. Snape's going to referee the next Quidditch match, Ron blurted. And get this, we saw Quirrell coming out of the forest looking terrified, with Snape threatening him. Snape said something about deciding where your loyalties lie, Hermione added. Harry considered this information. I need to see where Quirrell went in the forest. Despite his friend's protests, Harry slipped out that night, using his forest skills to evade castle security. The February air bit cold as he entered the Forbidden Forest, following the faint magical trail Quirrell had left behind. The path led deeper than Harry had expected, toward a particularly dark section the Centaurs rarely visited. The trees grew closer together, blocking moonlight, and an unnatural silence hung in the air. Harry froze as he sensed movement ahead. Crouching behind a massive oak, he watched as a hooded figure glided into a small clearing. Something about its movement seemed wrong, too fluid, too silent. The figure knelt beside a slain unicorn, its silvery blood gleaming in the faint moonlight. Harry's breath caught as the hooded head bent to drink from the wound. Horror filled him. The Centaurs considered unicorns sacred, to slay one was an abomination. To drink its blood, an act of desperate evil. Harry stepped into the clearing, drawing his bow. Stop, he commanded, his voice carrying the formal cadence of Centaur speech. The figure raised its head, silvery blood dripping from beneath the hood. A wave of pain shot through Harry's scar, nearly bringing him to his knees. Harry Potter, came a whispering voice. We meet again. The hood fell back, revealing Quirrell's face, but changed. His features seemed blurred, as if another face tried to emerge from within his own. You, Harry managed, fighting through the pain. Voldemort. A high, cold laugh erupted from Quirrell's mouth, though his lips barely moved. Perceptive child. The Centaurs taught you well. But not well enough to save you. Quirrell raised his wand, but Harry was faster. Drawing on his Centaur training, he channeled energy through his body and into his bow, releasing an arrow that exploded into blinding light. When the light faded, Quirrell was gone, fled into the darkness of the forest. The unicorn lay still, beyond saving. Harry knelt beside the magnificent creature, placing a hand on its neck, and whispered the Centaur prayer for the passing of a pure spirit. As he did, he noticed hoof prints approaching, not Centaur, but something smaller. Harry Potter should not be here, came a melodious voice. The forest is not safe tonight. Harry looked up to see a unicorn, younger than the slain one, its coat silver white in the darkness. You speak, Harry said, amazed. To those with pure intent, yes. The unicorn stepped closer. You honor our fallen. Few wizards would. I was raised by centaurs, Harry explained. They taught me to respect all forest beings. The unicorn's dark eyes studied him. A bridge walker. The stars spoke of your coming. The stars speak of many things lately, Harry said grimly. Including the return of great darkness. The one who drinks unicorn blood seeks immortality at terrible cost, the unicorn confirmed. A half-life, a cursed life. He wants the philosopher's stone, Harry said. To fully restore himself. The unicorn stomped a delicate hoof. He must not succeed. The balance would shift too far toward darkness. I'll stop him, Harry promised. The unicorn lowered its horn until it nearly touched Harry's scar. Take this gift, Bridgewalker. May it serve when other magics fail. A single drop of silvery light transferred from horn to scar. Harry felt a rush of pure energy, cleansing and strengthening. Thank you, he whispered. The forest remembers its friends, the unicorn replied before turning and disappearing among the trees. Harry returned to the castle with grim determination. He now had confirmation of his suspicions. Quirrell was harboring Voldemort somehow, and they were actively seeking the stone. The next morning, he went directly to Dumbledore's office to report what he'd witnessed. The headmaster listened gravely to Harry's account, his usual twinkle absent. I feared as much, Dumbledore said when Harry finished. Though I had hoped to be wrong. Sir, he's getting stronger, Harry pressed. The unicorn blood provides temporary sustenance, but at horrible cost, Dumbledore nodded. Still, the stone remains well protected. But for how long? Harry asked. Shouldn't we move it or destroy it? Dumbledore regarded him thoughtfully. The protections are designed not just to prevent theft, but to trap anyone who attempts it. Patience, Harry. Patience is difficult when I can sense him growing stronger, Harry admitted. The stars show conflict approaching rapidly. Then we shall be ready, Dumbledore assured him. Continue your vigilance, but do not confront Professor Quirrell directly. The entity he carries is far too dangerous. Harry left unsatisfied but obedient, for now. He briefed Ron and Hermione on everything, including the unicorn's gift. Blimey, Ron breathed. You actually talked to a unicorn? That's incredibly rare, Hermione added, eyes wide. Most unicorns avoid wizards entirely. The forest creatures recognize Harry as different, Ron pointed out. Being raised by centaurs changes how they see you. Harry nodded. Bridgewalker status has advantages. But it doesn't tell us how to protect the stone. Over the following weeks, they maintained close observation of Quirrell while researching possible defenses for the stone. Harry divided his time between these investigations, his classes, Quidditch, and weekend visits to the herd. The centaurs confirmed Harry's observations through their own star readings. Saturn's influence grows, Bane reported grimly. The darkness gathers for a decisive move. When? Harry asked. Soon, Firenze replied. The stars suggest a convergence near the summer solstice. Harry relayed this information to his friends, and they increased their vigilance. Hermione began reviewing advanced defensive spells, while Ron mapped Quirrell's movements throughout the castle. As March turned to April, Harry noticed Quirrell looking increasingly ill, gaunt and pale, with dark shadows beneath his eyes. Yet paradoxically, the dark energy surrounding him grew stronger. He's being consumed, Harry observed. Voldemort is draining him to gain strength. That's horrible, Hermione whispered. That's dark magic, Ron corrected grimly. The school year progressed toward finals, most students focused entirely on exams. Harry, Ron, and Hermione maintained their surveillance while still attending to their studies, Harry unwilling to disappoint either his wizard teachers or his centaur family. One night in early June, returning from the astronomy tower after a particularly intensive star-reading session, Harry felt a sudden shift in the castle's magical currents. Something had changed, a decision made, a plan set in motion. He closed his eyes, extending his senses as Firenze had taught him. The disturbance centered on the third-floor corridor, though no one was there currently. But there was anticipation in the air, a tension like the moment before a thunderstorm breaks. "It's happening soon," he told Ron and Hermione the next morning. "Quirrell is ready to make his move for the stone." "Should we tell Dumbledore?" Hermione asked. "He's left for the ministry," Ron reported. "Got an urgent owl this morning." Harry's eyes narrowed. Too convenient. I bet that message was fake, designed to get him away from Hogwarts. "So what do we do?" Ron asked. Harry stood, decision made. "We prepare. Tonight, I think Quirrell will make his attempt. And we'll be ready to stop him." Throughout the day, they gathered what they might need, Hermione reviewing key spells, Ron collecting useful items from his brothers, Harry preparing his bow and connecting with the forest energies during a brief visit to the edge of the woods. As night fell, the three friends gathered in the common room, waiting for their opportunity. When the last students had gone to bed, Harry turned to his friends. "You don't have to come," he said seriously. "This is dangerous." "Don't be thick," Ron replied. "We're in this together." Hermione nodded firmly. "We've been preparing for months. We're ready." Harry felt a surge of gratitude for these human friends who had accepted him despite his differences, who had stood beside him as he navigated two worlds. "Then let's go," he said, rising. "The stars await our choice." Together, they slipped from Gryffindor Tower toward the third-floor corridor, where destiny, or something like it, awaited them. Chapter 3, Celestial Convergence. The three friends crept through the darkened corridors of Hogwarts, Harry leading the way with the silent grace he'd learned from years of forest hunting. His senses stretched outward, alert for teachers, ghosts, or Filch and his cat. "Hold up," Harry whispered, raising a hand. They froze as Mrs. Norris padded across an intersection ahead, her lamp-like eyes scanning the darkness. Harry waited until she disappeared before motioning them forward. "That was close," Ron breathed. "We're not alone tonight," Harry murmured. "I can feel other movements in the castle." They reached the third-floor corridor without further incident. The door stood slightly ajar, confirmation that someone had already passed through. "Quirrell's already inside," Harry said grimly. Hermione gripped her wand tighter. "What's the plan?" "Get to the stone before he does," Harry replied. "Stop him however we can." Ron swallowed hard but nodded. "Let's do this." They slipped through the door into Fluffy's chamber. The massive three-headed dog was already asleep, a small harp playing by itself in the corner. "He's enchanted the harp," Hermione whispered. Harry shook his head. "Won't last. Feel how the magic's already fading." As if on cue, the harp's notes began to slow. "Move the trapdoor," Harry instructed Ron while reaching into a small pouch at his belt. He withdrew a handful of forest herbs, crushed them between his palms, and began to hum a low, rhythmic tone, not a melody like the harp, but something more primal. Fluffy's middle head twitched as the harp stopped completely. All three pairs of eyes began to open. "Harry!" Hermione hissed urgently. Harry continued his humming, extending his hand toward the massive beast, the crushed herbs releasing their scent. To Ron and Hermione's astonishment, Fluffy's heads lowered, his massive body relaxing once more. "Forest connection," Harry explained in a quick whisper between hums. "All creatures respond to their natural energies. Go." Ron had yanked open the trapdoor, revealing a dark opening below. "I can't see anything," he said, peering down. "I'll go first," Harry decided, still maintaining his connection with Fluffy. "Count to 10, then follow. Ready?" At their nods, Harry dropped through the opening, instantly alert as he fell into something soft and yielding. Landing with practiced ease, he immediately recognized the plant beneath him, Devil's Snare. Its tendrils were already moving toward him, sensing his body heat. Instead of struggling or reaching for his wand, Harry went completely still, closing his eyes and extending his awareness into the plant. He felt its patterns, its natural rhythm, not malevolent but simply doing what it was designed to do. "Friend, not prey," he whispered in the language of growing things that Firenze had taught him. The tendrils hesitated, then slowly retreated. Ron tumbled down beside him with a startled yelp as vines immediately wrapped around his ankles. "Don't move," Harry commanded. "It responds to fear and struggle." "Easy for you to say." Ron gasped as the vines tightened. Hermione landed more gracefully on Harry's other side. "Devil's snare," she identified immediately. "We need fire or light." "No," Harry corrected, placing his hands on the vines encircling Ron. "We need understanding." He closed his eyes again, communing with the plant. "Release. He means no harm." Gradually, the vines loosened. Harry helped Ron extricate himself, and the three moved to a stone passage leading away from the devil's snare pit. "How did you do that?" Hermione asked, impressed. "Plants aren't good or evil," Harry explained as they hurried down the passage. "They respond to energy. The Centaurs taught me to communicate with forest life, this is just a larger version." The passage sloped downward, taking them deeper beneath the castle. Harry could feel the magical currents growing stronger. "Listen," Ron said suddenly. A soft rustling and clinking sound drifted from up ahead. They emerged into a brilliantly lit chamber, its ceiling arching high above them. Small, jewel-bright birds fluttered around the room, except they weren't birds. "They're keys," Hermione exclaimed. "Winged keys." On the opposite side of the chamber stood a heavy wooden door. Ron tried the handle. Locked. "Bet we need to catch the right key." Harry studied the lock, then scanned the flying keys. His eyes narrowed, focusing on their flight patterns. This was like tracking birds in the forest canopy, identifying which moved differently, which had purpose rather than random motion. There, he pointed to a large silver key with a bent wing. "That one's injured, flying asymmetrically. It's been caught recently." Broomsticks leaned against the wall nearby. Harry glanced at them, then shook his head. Too obvious. Too noisy. He unslung his bow from his back, reached into his quiver, and selected an arrow with a blunted tip wrapped in soft leather. "What are you doing?" Ron asked. Harry didn't answer, his focus absolute. He tracked the silver key's erratic flight, noting its patterns, the rhythm of its movements. Drawing the bow, he breathed deeply, calculating wind currents, trajectory, timing. The arrow flew true, its padded tip gently tapping the key mid-flight. The key spiraled downward, stunned but undamaged. Harry caught it before it hit the floor. "Hunting technique," he explained, retrieving his arrow. "Stun, don't harm. The prey deserves respect." He handed the key to Hermione, who unlocked the door with an appreciative nod. The next chamber plunged them into darkness until they stepped fully inside. Suddenly, light flooded the room, revealing a giant chessboard with pieces taller than they were. "Wizard's chess," Ron breathed, his eyes lighting up. "We have to play our way across." Harry examined the board, feeling the magical energies binding the pieces. This was McGonagall's work, strategic, powerful, precise. "Ron," he said, "this is your domain." Ron's confidence visibly grew as he assessed the board. "We need to take positions." "I'll be a knight, Harry, you're a bishop, Hermione, take that castle." As they stepped onto their squares, Harry sensed something different about this challenge. While the previous obstacles had physical solutions, this one demanded mental discipline. "Megorian would appreciate this," he murmured. Chess is like star reading, seeing patterns before they fully form. The game progressed, Ron directing their movements with surprising authority. Harry contributed occasional suggestions based on the energy flows he could sense between pieces. "The White Queen's binding is strongest," he noted. She's the true threat. Ron nodded grimly. That's why I need to sacrifice myself. No. Hermione protested. It's the only way, Ron insisted. I'll move here, she'll take me, and Harry will be free to checkmate the king. Harry studied the board, seeking alternatives. Finding none, he placed a hand on Ron's shoulder. Brave sacrifice, he said solemnly. The herd would honor your strategy. Ron swallowed hard, then moved to his position. As predicted, the White Queen struck brutally, dragging Ron's unconscious form to the side of the board. Harry moved 3 spaces diagonally, facing the White King. Checkmate, he declared. The king's sword fell with a clatter. They had one passage. Hermione rushed to Ron's side. He's breathing, just knocked out. You stay with him, Harry decided. Get back to the Ollery, send word to Dumbledore. But Harry, the final challenges might require both centaur and wizard magic, Harry said. I'm the only one who can bridge them. Hermione hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. Be careful. Harry continued alone through the door beyond the chessboard. The next chamber held a mountain troll, already knocked unconscious, its massive body sprawled across the floor. The stench was overwhelming, but Harry moved past it quickly, heading for the next door. A simple table with 7 differently shaped bottles awaited him in the following chamber. As soon as he entered, purple flames sprang up behind him, while black flames blocked the doorway ahead. A roll of parchment lay beside the bottles. Harry picked it up, recognizing Snape's handwriting in the riddle described. Logic, not magic, would solve this puzzle. He studied the bottles, reading the patterns of their arrangement just as he would read constellations in the night sky. The Centaurs had taught him that true understanding comes from seeing relationships, not just individual elements. The positions of the bottles, their shapes, the riddle's clues, all formed a pattern similar to the lesser Arcturus configuration in summer skies. Third from the left, he murmured, selecting the smallest bottle. It contained barely enough liquid for one swallow. Harry didn't hesitate, downing the potion in one gulp. An icy sensation flooded his body. Taking a deep breath, he stepped through the black flames unharmed. The final chamber was circular, with a domed ceiling painted to resemble a night sky. In its center stood the mirror of Ariste. And before it, Professor Quirrell, his back to Harry, his turban slightly askew. I wondered if you'd come, Potter, Quirrell said without turning, his voice lacking its usual stutter. Harry moved forward cautiously, bow in hand though not drawn. You're too late. Quirrell laughed coldly. Am I? I see the stone in this cursed mirror, but I cannot obtain it. Perhaps you can help me. I'd rather not, Harry replied, continuing to circle, keeping distance between them. Quirrell finally turned, his face harder than Harry had ever seen it. It wasn't a request. With a snap of his fingers, ropes appeared from thin air, wrapping tightly around Harry. He didn't struggle, instead focusing on the magical signatures in the room. Quirrell's was obvious, but beneath it lurked something darker, hungrier, like a shadow with its own will. Now, Quirrell said, dragging Harry before the mirror. Tell me what you see. Harry gazed into the mirror's depths, expecting to see his deepest desire as before. Instead, he saw himself, just as he was, but his reflection winked and patted its pocket. Harry felt a sudden weight drop into his actual pocket. Somehow, incredibly, he had obtained the stone. Well? Quirrell demanded. I see myself with the centaur herd, Harry lied smoothly. They're congratulating me for stopping you. Quirrell snarled in frustration. Useless. Let me speak to him, came a high, cold voice that seemed to emanate from Quirrell himself. Master, you are not strong enough. I have strength enough for this. Harry watched in horrified fascination as Quirrell unwound his turban. Where the back of his head should have been was another face, chalk white with glaring red eyes and slits for nostrils. Harry Potter, the face whispered. See what I have become. Shadow and vapor, forced to share another's body. Unicorn blood has sustained me, but the elixir of life will restore my powers. Why suffer death when you can live forever? Why choose weakness when you can have power? The Centaurs taught me that all things have their time, Harry replied steadily. To cling to life beyond your span corrupts the natural order. Natural order? Voldemort's face twisted in contempt. There is only power, and those too weak to seek it. You're wrong, Harry said. The stars themselves reject your path. The stars? Voldemort laughed, a terrible sound. Your centaur mysticism is useless here. Now give me the stone in your pocket. Harry's hand moved to his pocket in surprise. How had Voldemort known? Yes, I see more than you think, Voldemort hissed. Give it to me, or die like your parents, begging for mercy. My parents died with courage, Harry retorted, the ropes around him beginning to loosen as he channeled his energy through them. Seize him. Voldemort commanded. Quirrell lunged forward, grabbing Harry's wrist. Immediately, his hand began to blister and crack. He leaped back with a howl of pain. What magic is this? He screamed, staring at his damaged flesh. Fool! Voldemort shrieked. Get the stone. As Quirrell advanced again, Harry broke free of the weakened ropes. Instead of fleeing, he drew his bow in one fluid motion. But rather than knocking a physical arrow, he extended his senses to the painted stars above, connecting to their celestial counterparts. The stars remember, Harry intoned in the formal centaur language. The cosmic forces bind all magic to its proper purpose. He drew back the bowstring, and where an arrow should have been, a shaft of pure starlight formed. The centaurs had taught him this most sacred technique for dire emergencies, channeling stellar energy directly. Kill him! Voldemort screamed. Harry released the star arrow just as Quirrell cast a killing curse. The green jet of death and the silver beam of starlight collided in midair. For a moment, they seemed perfectly matched, darkness against light, corruption against purity. Then the balance shifted. The star arrow pierced through, striking Quirrell squarely in the chest. He screamed, not in pain but in cosmic discord, as the pure energy of the stars flowed through his corrupted body. Voldemort's face contorted in fury and fear. What is this magic? Older than yours, Harry answered, drawing another star arrow. As old as the sky itself. He released a second shaft of light, then a third. Each struck true, filling the chamber with blinding radiance. Quirrell's body began to crumble, unable to contain both Voldemort's darkness and the stellar energy Harry channeled. With a final, terrible scream, Quirrell collapsed. A shadow rose from his disintegrating form, Voldemort's essence, fleeing the light. It passed through Harry with a frigid shock, and then was gone. Harry stumbled, his strength nearly spent. The bow slipped from his fingers as he sank to his knees. Drawing on stellar energy had depleted him more than he'd anticipated. The stone pressed against his leg through his pocket. He removed it, a simple red crystal, yet capable of granting immortality. So much death and corruption for such a small thing. As darkness edged his vision, Harry thought he heard hoofbeats, impossible this far beneath the castle. Yet there stood Firenze, translucent and starry, a projection from the cosmic forces. Well fought, young one, the vision said. Harry smiled weakly before consciousness left him entirely. He awoke in the hospital wing, sunlight streaming through tall windows. Dumbledore sat beside his bed, eyes twinkling behind half-moon spectacles. Good afternoon, Harry, the headmaster said kindly. Harry blinked, memories returning. Sir. The stone, Quirrell, Voldemort, calm yourself, Dumbledore soothed. Quirrell does not have the stone. As for Voldemort, he has once again been thwarted, thanks to you. Harry struggled to sit up. How long have I been here? 3 days. Your friends Mr. Weasley and Miss Granger have been quite concerned. As has a certain centaur who's been watching the hospital wing windows from the forest edge. Harry smiled at the mention of Firenze. Sir, what happened to the stone? It has been destroyed, Dumbledore replied. Nicholas and I had a little chat and agreed it was for the best. But won't he die? He has enough elixir to set his affairs in order. To one as wise as Nicholas, death is but the next great adventure. Harry nodded slowly. The Centaurs say death is just another cosmic transition. Our energies return to the stars. A beautiful perspective, Dumbledore remarked. Which brings me to a rather fascinating question, what exactly was that stellar magic you wielded against Quirrell? Madame Pomfrey found residual energy unlike anything she's encountered. Star arrow technique, Harry explained. The Centaur's most sacred defensive magic. It channels pure cosmic force through focused intent. Remarkable, Dumbledore murmured. I don't believe any human wizard has ever mastered such magic. I'm not exactly a typical wizard, Harry said with a slight smile. Indeed not. A bridge walker, as your centaur family calls you. Dumbledore's expression grew serious. Your unique perspective saved the stone, and quite possibly much more. You saw patterns others missed, approached problems with solutions from both worlds. Harry looked down at his hands. I keep expecting to feel torn between them, the forest and Hogwarts. But instead, I just feel, expanded. That, Harry, is wisdom beyond your years. Dumbledore stood. Now, I believe your friends are most anxious to see you. And after Madame Pomfrey releases you, a certain centaur awaits at the forest edge. The end-of-year feast found Harry surrounded by celebrating Gryffindors. Their house had won the cup, partly due to points awarded for the stone incident. Harry enjoyed the festivities but felt somewhat detached, already his thoughts were turning to the forest, to summer with the herd, to star reading beneath open skies. You'll write this summer, won't you? Hermione asked as they boarded the Hogwarts Express the next day. I'll send messages, Harry promised. Though not by conventional owl post. Let me guess, Ron grinned. Forest Creature Express delivery? Something like that, Harry laughed. They parted at King's Cross, Ron and Hermione to their families, Harry to where Hagrid waited to escort him back to Hogwarts and the waiting forest. Good year? Hagrid asked as they traveled. Educational, Harry replied with a smile. At the forest edge, Firenze waited, his coat gleaming in the summer sunlight. Harry approached him with the formal centaur greeting, then broke into a decidedly human grin and embraced his guardian. You have walked your path well, Firenze said proudly. I've tried to honor both my families, Harry replied. And thus fulfilled your role as bridgewalker. Firenze gestured toward the depths of the forest. The herd awaits. Even Bane admits your accomplishments honor us. As they moved deeper among the ancient trees, Harry felt the familiar forest energy welcoming him home. Yet Hogwarts too had become home in its way. Two worlds, both part of him now. That night, beneath a canopy of stars, the herd gathered for Harry's formal return ceremony. He shared the edited version of his confrontation with Voldemort, emphasizing the star arrow technique that had proven so effective. You channeled the stellar energies directly, Megorian said, impressed. Few adult centaurs have mastered this. Necessity forced the learning, Harry explained. Though I suspect the unicorn's blessing helped. Later, as most of the herd slept, Harry sat with Firenze on a high ridge overlooking the forest. The summer stars blazed above in all their glory, patterns clearer here than they ever could be from castle windows. What troubles you? Firenze asked, noting Harry's pensive expression. Voldemort isn't gone, Harry said quietly. He'll find other ways to return. Yes, Firenze agreed. The stars have shown this possibility for years. I'll need to be ready. To master both types of magic more fully. Firenze nodded. The coming years will test your abilities as bridgewalker. The conflict between light and darkness grows. Harry studied the constellations, reading their subtle shifts. Something's changing in the patterns. See there? He pointed to a cluster of stars near the horizon. A new configuration forming. Firenze followed his gaze, eyes narrowing in concentration. Yes. Unusual. A convergence pattern we haven't seen before. What does it mean? The future remains in flux, Firenze replied. But one thing is certain, your path continues between worlds, drawing strength from both. Harry watched as a shooting star streaked across the sky, a cosmic punctuation to Firenze's words. Whatever came next, he would face it with the wisdom of the Centaurs and the knowledge of wizards, no longer torn between identities but strengthened by their combination. Bridgewalker. Star Reader. Wizard. All parts of who he was and who he would become. The stars continued their eternal dance overhead, while in the forest below, a young boy with a lightning scar found peace in belonging to two worlds at once. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.